Okay, so without further ado, let's welcome on our special guest for the day, Zoey Greco. We are so grateful to have you here. Before even pressing record, I feel like I'm going to be in tears because my heart is just bursting with love for you already. So we're really grateful that you're here. Thank you for being with us today. How are you feeling? How are you doing today?
I am so great. I am so grateful to be here. I'm already feeling so held in this energy, and there's nothing I love more than girling with the girls, and that's what I feel like this is about to be. I'm also coming off of a 4-day retreat with my mom for her birthday and her little friends. We went to like a hot springs spa in New Mexico. So I'm very mineralized and relaxed. I'm in a great
Wow.
space energetically.
Oh, I love that so much. That sounds like, inject me there. I just wanna absorb the vibes of that mother-daughter friendship,
Yes.
sisterhood
Let's plan a
energy.
getaway.
Oh my gosh, I'm already like, "Hold on, what spa, place in New Mexico? I need to look that up."
It was called Ojo Caliente, and I went to the one that was in Ojo Caliente, but they have one in Santa Fe as well, which I think is less rural. Like we were truly in the middle of nowhere. Like when I got back to Phoenix, I was kind of like, "Whoa, civilization! Like people and cars. Like what is this?"
Yeah, that's
Wow.
always such a amazing and weird feeling, and my defining passions in life, I'm gonna go ahead and say, are hot springs and waterfalls. Those are my 2 sacred joys of being in a human body on planet
Wow.
Earth, and I've
What's your
never been.
sign?
I'm actually a fire sign, I'm a Leo. So I have a ton of fire in my chart, I know, and not that much water, but sometimes I think that, like, because I have so much fire, I'm really drawn to the water to bring me into balance. Also really drawn to the moon energy, so I think sometimes, like,
Mm.
that's sort of my thing is wanting to find that grounding with it.
I actually had a high takeaway because I absolutely was blasted the whole time I was there. It was amazing, and I was like high in this sauna, and I was thinking about how fire because I'm a fire sign. I'm an Aries
Mhm,
sun and a Sag moon and a Cancer
mhm.
rising, and so I was thinking about how like fire is so undefined without its opposition of water, and my husband is a Pisces, and I was just thinking about how like I think people often think like, oh, fire and water just creates steam and like, steams itself out. But I feel so sustained and like counterbalanced by water. And so as a fire energy, I'm also super, super drawn to water and I love playing in water. Like I struggle to stay still. I just kind of want to like splash around and like live my H2O like dreams of mermaidhood. So I was thinking about that just a couple days ago and here we are having this conversation.
I love it, yeah, and I'm a double fire too, and then my husband's a water sign, he's a Cancer, so I really resonate with that, and Shayna is the water in my life too. She's a
Yeah.
Scorpio, but she's like I feel like it's so confusing that Scorpio is a water sign. It's like
I know.
the fieriest, steamiest water sign that there
Oh,
is, but
Yeah.
I've
also
never known a not hot Scorpio. Like, Scorpios that are all hot,
Oh,
like,
True.
to me,
snap!
Until
Scorpios,
now.
I
I'm just
I get,
kidding.
like, Black Panther energy, like, just kind of, like, big cat energy with, like, the
Yeah.
strutting, and I'm always, like I'm just aroused by Scorpio energy.
Yeah, well, I'm a Scorpio sun and a Gemini rising, and then a Cancer moon. So, I have so much water in my chart, but then I also have
You do.
a lot of, like, I
Air
don't know,
too.
air a lot of air energy. But yeah, I'm definitely the spicy one out of everyone in my
Yes.
life, actually, except
Yeah.
for, like, my mother-in-law, who I absolutely adore. But yeah, I'm happy being the spicy Scorpio, and I saw a meme the other day that was like, "I'm okay with being the villain in your story, like, because in mine, you're the clown." And I was thinking
No.
yeah, like, I don't go out of my way to be the villain, like, I'm so kind and loving, but, like, if I've tried over and over and over again, I've exhausted my resources, like, I am the ultimate hype girl, I'm there for you, I will smother you in love and, like, cuddle you to death, but then if it's just, like, it's just not going anywhere, I'm like, "Great, I don't need to" like, I'm totally fine being calling the thing out, saying the
Oh, yeah.
thing, standing
You
up for
know,
what I
I
believe in.
I actually had, like, a little bit of my husband and I rarely fight, like maybe once a year. And at this point, I kind of just do it for fun, like just for like a little
Same,
like
actually.
moment. Because I'm an Italian American Aries, so there's a lot of fire and a New Yorker. So like, you can't take it out of the girl. And so we were having like a little row the other day, and he was like, "I don't want to fight," and I was like, "I like fighting, and I'm not going to back down. Like I'm okay fighting with you right now." And he was like, "Okay, like, no problem." 'Cause I just,
Like,
like,
I
sometimes
want
you just
it.
gotta stand in your fire for a second, and I was like, "I don't mind disagreeing with you. It doesn't faze me," you know? He was like,
Yeah.
"Okay. I just really wanna make up." And it was,
And
like,
he's
over
a
something stupid.
Pisces?
It was about, like, getting snacks for his boys' night or something, and I told him to get snacks, and he was like, "I'm not 10 years old. You don't have to remind me to get snacks for my friends." And it just, like, turned into a thing, and I realized in the middle of that, like, little argument, I was like, "Oh, I'm having so much fun." Like, I don't have enough people to fight with these days in my life. My life's, like, really
Honestly,
peaceful.
that's
It's so
so
true.
true. I talk about that all the time. Like, I have this, good girl syndrome that I'm healing and like letting
Mm.
go of perfectionism. And I spend so much of my life trying to have zero drama and to be perfect and to never make a mistake. And from my highest self perspective, I'm like, that shit's fucking boring. We would
So
never
boring.
watch a movie where everything goes perfect and there's literally no conflict or growth. That shit is
Totally.
boring. And if my life is a movie and I'm the lead character, like, let's give them something to talk about and see
Oh,
what kind of shit we can get into, but in
hell
the
yeah.
highest expression. You know what I mean? Like the highest expression drama in your life versus the lowest expression, I think is something that's really positive. Like that's why we're here. And I think
Yes.
for a lot of us that are intuitive or sensitive, like we struggle just being in the
Mm,
human form sometimes and embracing a little bit of that playful, feisty messiness. I
mm.
think can really bring more fun back into your life after you've been, trying to program that out of you and make everything peaceful and calm and eliminate all the resistance, all of that.
Totally.
Totally.
I
And
feel
I
like
also know with my husband, I'm so safe with him. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to
yeah.
have that moment.
Yeah.
So, and also, like, it's part of why he loves me, like I bring the heat,
Bring the
and
fire.
like I keep it warm, and we need that sometimes. And so it felt good to be like, I don't mind fighting with you. And
Mhm.
I like it. Like I'm happy that we're
Yeah.
having this fight.
It's
And
like
it just feels good
passion.
sometimes.
Like, it just feels
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm just passionate about whatever it is that we're talking about. And it's just feeling that passion come through.
Mm,
But I've definitely in my life now, like the biggest drama in my life is always like growth or
oh,
like, healing something or,
yes.
trying not to be like overly involved in other people's drama. Like my drama is so like I don't have any drama in my life and I'm like what is my drama? And the other day I was like going on and on to Dana about like, baby clothes and all the things that I need to get and like is it too early for me to make my hospital bag and like all this shit and she's like this is the drama in your life. Like if that's the max drama, like great, be passionate about that
Go
hospital
for it.
bag. Like you
Rant
really
about the
rant.
hospital bag. It is what you are living for right now.
Oh
And also you're
yeah.
like genuinely passionate about it.
I
It's so
am.
funny that we get into these moments like, you literally asked me, is it okay that I'm passionate about that? I'm like,
Mm,
yes. Like, it's like we have new
Yeah.
things that come in and it's like, is it okay that this is what I'm really genuinely excited about, even if it doesn't make sense to other people?
Yeah, because other
And
people are like, you're crazy. You need to take a chill pill. Like you still got
totally.
6 months. And it's like, don't tell me I'm passionate right now. Like, don't
This
tell me
is
what to
your
do.
ride, baby.
this is
This
your
is
ride.
your
Yeah.
ride.
Like
No
it's
one
just
else
for
gets to decide
fun.
how spicy it is, how fast it is, none of that. This is for you.
Oh
So
my
enjoy
gosh.
it.
Yeah.
I am obsessed with you because we haven't even introed you to the
Yeah.
audience yet, and I could just hang out with you forever. So please, Zoe, let our audience know who you are, what you do, teach, share, channel, all the things.
Wow. That's such a great question. So, by trade, I'm a professional intuitive, and I have been intuitive my entire life, but I've been doing it professionally for about 9 years now, which is crazy. I'm starting to feel mega old, actually. But I am also an intuitive development mentor. I'm a sound healer. I'm an oracle card deck creator. I'm a very multi passionate person, and I feel even in my intuitive work, I love to blend modalities. So I include aura interpretation. I love sprinkling in numerology. I just love to help people have a full picture understanding of themselves. And I really love finding the tools that resonate with each person because ultimately the work that I do is about connecting people to the divine and helping them understand that the things that they already feel drawn to or the things that are stirring within them are pulling them in a direction for a reason. So, more than anything, I feel like I'm everyone's like psychic best friend. Like, I'm just here to either validate or lovingly redirect you in a new direction. And I do that through a multitude of tools and modalities, but mostly I just sit and channel. I just receive. And in recent years, I've discovered because I teach this intuitive development container. It's a 30-day program and we dive really deeply. It's based on like mind hacking principles and positive psychology and also obviously spiritual universal laws. And in teaching people how to read and interpret auras, I've realized that I have synesthesia. So I
Mm.
perceive emotion as color. Like each emotion has a hue that I connect it to. And I really feel grateful for the space and the time working with others to even understand myself more deeply. Because I really just jumped into this work in my early 20s and I was so blessed to have it just sort of take off really instantly. I've, been riding the wave of entrepreneurship like everybody, but it's been really smooth sailing, really comfortable and easy and joyful. And I have, new clients every day. I have clients I've worked with for all 9 years I've been in practice. I just have so much gratitude for getting to watch people grow and meet them wherever they are in their journey and just be there with them and watch them blossom into their potential.
I love that so much. And for everyone listening, Zoe is a 5-1 sacral generator. And immediately getting on the screen with you and just connecting, even though we're over Zoom, you can feel your generator warmth and aura. It's so opening, it's so welcoming. And I was thinking about that this morning, actually. Inclusivity, someone who has this inclusive feeling, is my number one favorite quality of
Oh,
anyone. It just
yes.
feels so nurturing. And I feel like we've kind of been brought up in this conditioning of exclusivity and like,
Mm,
you can't sit with us energy, and people at the top are separate from people from the middle or the bottom. And so people who bring this just warmth and openness, that are just willing to pour out that love with other people, it's such a beautiful quality. I'm really enjoying bathing
mm,
in that around you. And also, you have this undefined G center. So for all of our human design nerds listening, anyone with an undefined G center, it's like the sky is the limit on the modalities that you are here to use. You're not here to just use one single modality and you stick with that forever and ever. You're really here to expand and explore. And with this undefined G center, it's like this ultimate life coaching empathy. You're with someone and you can just feel for this person with their unique purpose, with their unique gifts, they need this thing or they need to go
mm,
on this path. And you might even want to use a new tool because of meeting someone. You're like, I want to learn that tool because I really feel like it's going to serve that. So I love that you haven't limited yourself or boxed yourself in about the tools that you use. But it's also really beautiful to hear that you've always been so connected to your intuition. Because I know for some
mm.
people, it's quite a journey to unlock that, to open that up. So I'd love to hear a bit about your origin story, like your childhood being connected to your intuition. What was all of that like for you?
I've realized over the years of hosting my own show and being on other people's shows that it is kind of a more unique path most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say, we're all born intuitive. We all
Yeah.
have this capability. And that's my favorite thing to tell people is like, and I used to start all my sessions like that. I would say, like, I eat cereal like you. I watch terrible television. Jersey Shore is my favorite show. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to front. Am I
Same.
embarrassed? Sure, I'm embarrassed, but I want people to understand that I'm a real person and there's no differentiation between myself and others. So, for most people, they have this experience of being born with these gifts and then their life experience, the influences around them, creating separation and disconnect between themselves and this very inherent part of us. And I feel really grateful every day for my mom. I know that I chose her to be my mom because from a very early age, like in the bathtub, I was saying like, "Oh, I chose you in our soul contracts, and this is my past life." And I used to talk about wild past lives. Like I had a past life where I was married to a guy in a biker gang, and he left me with all of our kids, dead ass. And my parents were like, "She is maybe 2 years old, and we don't even own a television. Like, where is this coming from?" And
Wow.
all through my younger years, I did a lot of writing, and people were always very concerned. Like, there was, I would say, at least once a quarter, my parents were called into the school because people were like, "She's writing stories as if she's a soldier in 1920, and we just, like, don't understand, like, we don't get it." In fact, in kindergarten, my parents were called in because I was asked what I wanted to do, like, like, they asked little kids, like, "What do you wanna be when you grow up?" And I said, "I wanna meet God." And they were, like, thinking maybe I was, like, suicidal. I was 5, right? And my parents were like,
Wow.
"She's fine. She's psychic. Like, she loves God. God's her bestie." Um, and so my whole life revolved around spirituality from a very young age. I always say I never played house. I only ever played witch and pop star. But those are my only 2 games I ever loved to play. And my mom bought me these like antique apothecary bottles with these little corks, and I would take them up to the attic and talk to ghosts and make potions out of like ketchup and turmeric or something, like whatever was in the house. But it was inherent in me from a very early age that like this is what I'm here to do. And so I was given oracle cards at the age of 7, and I still have those decks to this day, right here in these drawers in front of me, as well as the others that I've either created or collected over the years. And it is just a part of me that never went away. I was always so blessed to be able to connect to that, and my mom made sure I had mentors, so I was always being taken around other intuitives or practitioners. I remember going to psychic fairs and doing all sorts of fun things. So that was very normal to me, like the woo was very normal. I was not raised inside of religion, which I'm grateful for. I think there's benefit to religion. I'm not someone that says like don't have that, but I also feel grateful that my path didn't include that because it was just an obstacle I didn't have to overcome to come to my truth. But ultimately, I was prepared to let this go. Like I was never, it was never my intention to make this my life's work. I really, even though I grew up around people who did it for a living, I still didn't have the idea that I could do it for a living. And I come from a very like traditional background in some ways. I went to private boarding school in like the Berkshires of Connecticut, went off to college. I was, it was expected that I might be a doctor. And at the end of my years in college, I had to tell my parents, like, thank you so much for spending $1 billion on my education, but I want to be a professional psychic. Is that okay? And I feel really grateful that I was met with love and understanding. And there was only ever a little bit of concern because they weren't sure that it would sustain me. But I've been believed in by the people that love me, and I'm grateful to have proved them right, and to be a success story.
Wow, it's so beautiful to hear stories of people who have parents who are truly supportive.
Mhm.
I think it's so much more rare than we even realize in, our generation. I think that
Totally.
the world is really changing, but it's really beautiful to hear a story like that where your parents were like totally on board, so supportive and just even getting like excited about the things that you were excited about when you were a kid. Like I love the story of your mom buying you the little apothecary bottles. So cute. And I think it takes a lot of bravery for parents to stand up to the school system, like the principal calling in and being like, "We're concerned about this behavior," and them to be like,
Totally.
"Back off, like we trust our daughter and,
Yes.
who she is as a soul." Like that's such a beautiful blessing, and I think it's really a special gift that you carry within you when as you teach and guide people, like knowing how to love and support others because you've received that from such a young age is really beautiful. And
Mm.
it's so cool to hear. I've been thinking a lot about because actually honing my intuition, connecting more to my intuition has been a huge theme for me and also intention for me really
Mm.
recently. And going into 2024, it's actually my greatest intention. And I've been really trying to open myself and listen to the things that have been coming in about what I need to do with my vessel to
Mm.
receive, and taking care of my body, the types of meditation I need to do, the types of exercise. I've actually like been guided to exercise more, and which is funny. Like if you know me, you're like, really, Dana, you're out jogging? I'm like, dude, my
Mhm.
guides are telling me, so I'm doing it. But I was thinking about, as a child, like, was I intuitive? Because I have a really strong
Mhm.
memory from when I was really, really young. And I don't ever remember like seeing angels or auras or anything like that. But something that I did really remember was not being afraid of death or people passing, and actually even being drawn to it, like wanting to go. Like my dog got hit by a car when I was 2, and I stayed in the garage with it, and I was like petting it and giving it all this love and like helping it transition. And I remember my mom being like, is this weird? Like, should we let her like be with the dog as it like passes? But I like wanted to. And I
Yeah.
remember feeling like this dog's like mother, like comforting it and feeling
Mm.
it so I'm like, I think if anything, that was the strongest form of like
Mm.
intuition that I really felt extremely connected to as a child.
Yeah. What you're describing to me is the evidence of who you've become, which is the inner healer, like the part of you that just wants to share love, connect through love, offer love. And I really think having this expertise in human design really will support you in your intuitive journey, because ultimately human design, from my understanding and experience of it, helps us to like optimize our experience of ourselves, which is really important because intuition is mostly about connecting to your authentic self. Like your intuition points you toward your true self and toward who you are and what you're here to do. The other thing that's really important about intuition, which you're also tapped into, both of you, is the connection to oneness. Like my ability to be an empath or to feel into other people's energy comes from the fact that I recognize that we are part of a single whole. And that makes us no different. So I immediately have like feelers into your energy because you're also who I am and I'm also who you are, which is why we're having such a good time, because we're conscious of that and we recognize the sparkle in each other is the sparkle in ourselves. And it feels so good to experience reflection through genuine joy and love for the other person rather than what we're taught to experience, which is competition and separation and division. We are supposed to view everyone as our opposite or our opposition, and that's not natural to us. And that's why everyone that chases that path becomes so stressed and so tired and so exhausted, because they're walking away from truth. And eventually they come back and they're like, can anyone help me find my way? Like, I know I should be going in this direction. I'm getting chills as I talk about this. I know I should be going in this direction, but I just don't know exactly how to get there. And that's what the three of us have decided to do in our own way, is say, come this way. I got you. Come home. And what a beautiful thing to like welcome our friends home, like our sisters, our brothers, like ourselves, right? Like welcoming ourselves home through every person that we connect to.
Yeah, that's so, I think, important to. I'm so glad that you brought this up and that you are speaking to this, because that separation or that feeling of, how is this person going to benefit me, or how am I benefiting them, or what
Yeah.
can I prove to be of value, or what how are they of value to me? All of that kind of yeah, it's separation at its core. It's it's that separation of self ultimately,
Mm.
internally. And so having that just reflection, that sparkle, like you said, seeing that sparkle in someone else that is also in you, and feeling that sense of like, oh, life can be that easy. Like things can feel this fun.
Mhm.
And even what you were saying about, your career, how it's felt easy. We always say, like, when you're in your purpose and when you're using your gifts, and really trusting yourself and listening to your authority, listening to your body and your intuition, it's challenges might come up, but there's an ease about it. There's this
Mhm.
feeling of like, I've got my own back. I know how to handle anything that comes. If something that comes that's outside of my comfort zone or scary, I'll know how to handle it because I trust myself.
Mhm.
And there's just this ease that comes through that experience. And that's definitely been our experience as well. But it's interesting before starting DayLuna and, really knowing, really stepping into my purpose in a bigger way. I would always say, like, I'm a natural born leader. I just don't know where I'm going. And I would feel like I don't know what I'm supposed to lead people towards,
Mm.
but I know that I'm supposed to be a light in people's lives. And just by being a light, like, that is naturally going to be giving my purpose and healing people and helping people, even if I don't directly, give them help or give them a reading or something like that. And so I've really been connecting back to that lately of, because as you run a business and as you create things, and then, I'm going into motherhood and this whole new chapter, it's like, what can I be doing more? How could I be sort of supporting my community more? Like, what's
Mm.
this new, chapter going to bring to support people more right now as things are changing in the world? And a big thing that I've just been coming home to is like, just shine your light. Like, just shine your light of like the pure, um, healing, channeled, intuitive, but also real shit and authentic
Yes.
shit. And that is enough. Like, that is all of the rest of the answers will come and happen, and all of the things, all the details will fall into place, but really that's your only job. And I think that applies to everyone, right? Like, just letting yourself be seen. I think there's so many blocks that we have around letting ourselves be seen because of this separation, because of this conditioning we have to prove ourselves, or not feel valuable enough or worthy enough to be seen and be shiny, and or that it's not humble to be shiny or things like that. But
Mm.
being shiny isn't about, boasting or bragging. It's really about authenticity and just truly taking the filters off and being like, this is where I'm at. And in that rawness, in that vulnerability, people can finally meet you and
Mhm.
finally be guided by you. Even if you don't know what you're doing at all, they feel this closeness in, and like that mirror, like you said, of like, oh my gosh, me too. And they can let their walls down. And then finally we can move forward of like, I feel like shit. I feel like shit. Okay, cool. Like, now it doesn't have to be like, I'm letting my guard down for people to see me at my best and like when I have
Mm.
all my shit figured out. It's like, I'm letting my guard down for when I'm a mess too.
Mm.
And when I say something stupid or say something that, maybe later I'll regret, and then I'll let my guard down then and be like, I regret that. That was a
Sorry.
dumb decision. So
You
I
know,
think that vulnerability is just so important to
I
let
feel like
yourself
you're
be seen.
speaking right to me because that has been my theme for the past year. I went really deep into shadow work in 2023 by accident. I like fell in a shadow puddle and was like, "Oh shit, this is scary in here." And
Same.
I feel like there's a couple things I've always been okay doing. So going back to the conversation of entrepreneurship, I live a very beautiful, privileged life, but it's a life that I created with my partner. So my husband and I are both entrepreneurs. Our house is shaped like a capital H, and I have one side and he has the other, and our offices like look at one another from across the house. And we are so lucky because like 9 out of 10 small businesses fail, and we have two successful small businesses in our home, which are not so small anymore, which is really exciting. And I've always felt like it's one of my jobs to be an example of the ability to be abundant and successful through this work because for a long time it was not allowed. I've had so many people say to me, "How can you call yourself spiritual when you charge for this work?" Like, bitch, do you not know how hard this is? Like, this is the emotional labor of
Mhm.
humanity. Like, we are doing this on behalf of everybody. And that is a lot of work. But also, I want people who want to do this work to believe and know that it can sustain us in every way. I am not just abundant financially, I'm abundant. My team, I have three beautiful women who work with me who have changed my life, and I get to watch them be geniuses in their area of expertise and watch them blossom and grow into even, higher levels of who they are. I'm rich in friends, I'm rich in family, I'm rich in love. I mean, I'm so abundant, and I feel like it's really important to set that example. And so I've always been very transparent about like numbers and all sorts of things. But what I discovered was I was not sharing myself. I felt like I couldn't reveal my humanity because it would make me untrustworthy as a channel. And I think a lot of that too comes from being a woman. A lot of that comes from starting my business in my early 20s. And at the time, I looked like I was 12. Like I remember I used to teach a spiritual entrepreneurship course at a healing arts college. And I was given the opportunity to create the program and teach it at the age of, I think, 24. So at the time, I was looking 13, like quite pubescent. And people would literally come to class and be like, "How old are you?" And I would just get, smacked with this, like, "Oh, they don't trust me. I don't seem trustworthy." And so I felt like I couldn't talk about my pain. I couldn't be a human. I had to appear like this, like, wise sage, you know, creature, like this non-human, in order to gain people's trust, and in order to be worthy of serving them, I had to be someone other than who I am. And I actually took about 3 years away from my business to understand. I mean, I was still doing it, but I was like really resistant to it, and that's a whole other conversation. But I needed to understand that my worth was not in that example, because it's an important example, but that's not who I am as a person. It's a thing that I do, it's a thing that I can provide, but it's not who I am. And I had to stop pretending that that's who I was and actually let people see me. And the crazy thing is, and no one in my life would believe this, but I've actually come to understand that I have developed in my life a fear of intimacy. And it's strange because I'm the first person to be like, "Tell me everything about yourself. All I want to do is understand you and love you and treat you like you are a goddess on this earth and hype you up in every moment and watch you chase your dreams. But don't ask me about me because I won't know what to tell you and I won't know what to say." And I really am so consciously cultivating right now this idea of sharing who I am, and becoming a friend of vulnerability. I used to be like, I want to master vulnerability, but I don't want to master vulnerability. I don't want to have dominion over vulnerability. I want to be a partner to vulnerability. And vulnerability has so far been an incredible partner to me. So I want to give that back. And I find that this work is the most impactful sometimes when I do bring that guard down and say, "Hey, I can actually speak from experience around this as well," because I believe that we can take people only to places that we ourselves have been. And so I'm willing to go into shadows. I'm willing to go into depths. I'm willing to go into hard things. I'm willing to face humanity, my humanity, so that I can help people understand their own, because being a human is actually very confusing. Like we have a computer in our heads that like reacts to in like everything that we experience based on our prior experience. Like some of that I didn't even give consent to. I'm like, that's how I respond to that? Like, based off this thing that happened when I was 3 that I barely remember, but my body is somehow keeping the score of? Like, whoa. So helping people come to their own personal truth and find their authenticity is all I wanna do, and in order to do that, I had to change the way that I was doing this, and my work has only deepened the more that I'm willing to reveal myself. So everything that you're saying is like the universe just reminding me that we really are living on the same timeline. Like as soon as we all
Mhm.
got joined this call, we were like, "Oh, we're best friends, right? Like this is
Yeah.
like we're gonna hang out all the
Literally.
time, right?" And it's because that's what vibing feels like when they say
Yeah.
like your vibe attracts your group, your family, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what it means. Is because I was sitting in the airport yesterday and I was looking around being like, wow, they're living in a different reality than I am. They're living in a different timeline than I am. But then there's the people that come up to you that are like, "Hey, I love your outfit," or like, "Hey, I like the people that see you." Because to some people, I'm invisible, which frankly shocks me because I think I'm very attention grabbing. But some people, they're like, "Nah." And I say that about my husband all the time. I'm like, I feel so bad for the girls that passed up on you, who, like, treated you like you weren't hot shit and, like, didn't get it, because the second I met him, I was like, "Oh, I'm in love and we're getting married." And he was like, but I was right. And because 'cause I'm a professional psychic, like, And I feel so grateful all the time that I saw him, like, from the get when he was, like, a Mormon insurance agent, I was like,
Wow.
"That's a something special right there." And he sure is. He sure is. And that's what the vibe is, right? We're on the same timeline, and I'm grateful to
Yeah.
be here with you guys. I'm happy to find you too, right? Like, sometimes even
Same.
in partnership, it can feel, like, a little lonely when we're walking
Mhm.
this journey because no one understands us completely, which is, like, I think
Yeah.
the crux of humanity is like, "Ugh, I'm an individual and, like, no one can understand me," because it's the opposite of spirit. Spirit is like, "We're all one, like, there's no such thing as Zoe, like,
Yeah.
say bye
Mhm,
to
mhm,
this." And so
mhm.
I fucking love being Zoe in this lifetime because I only get to do it for a short amount of time, and I love her, and she's so cool, and she's so fun, and she loves cool stuff, and, like, I love
Mhm,
her, and I
mhm.
feel so grateful to be her and also, like, be an example through Zoe and, like, live in
Yeah.
this individuality while I can because it doesn't
And
last, which kind of sucks.
you give off so much medicine just by that alone. Like, even if you didn't have a career in, offerings and healings and channeling, like, just by loving yourself, like, naturally will emit so much healing to other people because it's radical to love yourself. It really is. Like, it's something that we have so much conditioning around. And I remember I brought this up before, but I was at a retreat once and I said, like, I love myself. Like, I love
Mm,
everything about myself. I would not choose to be anyone else on this planet but me. And this older woman looked at me like I was like she couldn't believe the words were coming out of my mouth. Like
mm,
she was offended, like, like, be humble, sit down. Like, and I was like, and other people felt so liberated by that. Like, oh, I can do that. Like, it's
yeah.
okay to do that. And um it's just so funny what you're saying. I think a lot of people with human design, we really teach, the way our geometry is. We have this G center and it's like magnetizing us towards our unique differentiation, like our being Zoe, being Shayna, being
Mhm.
Dana. Like, this is what makes us different. And it's magnetizing us towards our own unique path versus just being part of that one whole energy that we are deep down. And so it gives us this illusion of separateness where we're
Yes.
constantly trying to find, like, the who are we? Where are we going? Like, what is my purpose? What am I doing in this life? And the truth that we come to realize is that we're all one and that we are home already and that, we are what we're searching for. And so it's so funny that you can see when you're looking around an airport or at a grocery store, at a restaurant or whatever. Like, I always say, like, that's just not my life. Like, I can see a situation or a group of people or be with a group of people and just feel like this is not my life, but I'm here right now. Like, I'm observing it and I love that I get to observe it. Like, we're just in different dimensions, like different universes. Like you said, like, they literally can't see me and I can see them, but I know, like, I'm not trying to enter that vibe, that frequency. Like,
Ooh.
I could bend myself to do that, but, like, do I want to? It almost feels painful to me at this point. And then everyone listening here, and I'm sure on your podcast as well, like, you create this community by letting yourself be seen where people
Yeah.
then can see themselves and then are vibing with you. And then it feels that feeling of, like, these are my people. Like, this is what my life, like, this is where I belong. And so many people, I mean, even podcasts that I listen to, I'm like, I feel like I know you. Like,
Mm,
I am you. And, like, our vibe is the same. And I love that about podcasts because it allows you to, astrally project or time travel with other people to connect and to vibe out in a conversation that you weren't necessarily a part of, but you kind of are because you are these people and they are you and you're vibing on the same frequency. So I just love it. It's the funnest thing that I've ever done is this podcast and, like, connecting with people literally like you. I literally feel like I've known you my whole life.
same.
But I'm curious. So with the ways that you help people, I know you teach a lot about intuition and helping people connect with their intuition. I'm curious, what are some of your observations there or ways that you think people can lean into connecting to their intuition or the divine in their everyday life right now?
Ugh, this is such an important question because I I find that people will often reach out before, like, when I'm launching one of the mentorships rounds, people will be like, "I really wanna do it, but I don't wanna be a professional intuitive. Is that okay?" And I'm like, "This isn't a business course, baby. It's an intuition course." Like, this is about helping you connect to your gifts so you can use them in the bedroom, in the boardroom, in, your family circles. Like, you can use this anywhere. Intuition is useful anywhere because it is this extra sense that helps you perceive what is unseen. But life happens in what is unseen. It is in the words we don't say, the thoughts that we have that we don't give life to. It is in the dreams that we do not give permission to. Like, life is happening in this invisible realm. And intuition allows you to tap into that invisible realm. But it is also, I always use this metaphor that intuition is a compass and joy is the needle on that compass. And we do not give enough credit to what brings us joy. Like, people always say, like, follow your bliss. Yeah, actually, fucking great advice, because there is nothing better in this world than the thing that makes you the happiest. And that is what you're here to give to this world. And I had a friend recently have this conversation with me, and he's clearly going through some, like, ego stuff, so, like, love and respect to him. But he was like, "I don't understand how some people get to be, like, gardeners, and I have to be this, like, high whatever, like, I have to, create a platform and, like, teach people and whatever." And I was like, "You know, there's really no hierarchy, like, there's no such thing, like, we're all here to play our part." And gardeners make the world more beautiful. They also feed us, they inspire us. Like, every role, every job is important. And we live in a society that negates that truth. And we have to consistently remind ourselves of what is real and what is true. And joy is true. Like, joy is real and it guides you into your personal truth. But people have a difficult time connecting to their joy, sometimes myself included, because we are not taught to prioritize joy. We're taught to prioritize pretty much everything but our joy. And we also haven't figured out in a lot of ways how to commodify joy, how to, create capital from joy. And so therefore it is not valuable in our society. So for people who struggle to connect to their joy, I always, always, always say the first thing that you can do to help develop your intuition or pursue your intuition just for your everyday life is to begin to create a daily dialogue. Because basically, people are walking, like, I don't know how people do it, to be honest, because every single thing I do is intuitively led. Every single thing I do. I just take a second and I'm like, yep, that's a yes. Or like, that's a big no for me. No thanks. And there's no other way that I know how to operate through life. So the fact that there are people who don't hear anything and they're like, I don't know what to do. Of course you're going to be nervous and scared and indecisive and like you have nothing to go on. Like, you got nothing. And sometimes through intuition, you have no information, you just have the feeling, and the feeling is enough. So, beginning to create a daily dialogue where you are asking a question and receiving an answer. And people might be like, okay, well, like, how do you receive an answer if you're not already psychic? I have an answer for you. It is tools, oracle cards, pendulums, divination rods, like any tool that you want to use. Bring it into the material first. If you don't know how to just, like, astral project into space and have a conversation with something you've never seen before, which weird that you don't know how to do that. Begin in the material, begin in what you know, begin in the humanity. I always tell people, start by getting an oracle deck that resonates for you or a tarot deck that resonates for you, and start each day. And this is actually one of the assignments in the mentorship. Start each day by asking, what would you have me know today? And pull a single card and do a little bit of journaling. And at first you're going to be like, I'm making this up, I'm a wackadoo. Give it a little bit of space, give it a little bit of time, and try, if you can, to stop judging yourself. Like, you're not doing this on national television, you're doing it in the privacy of your sacred space or your bathroom or your bed or whatever. You're alone with you. And if you can't overcome the embarrassment of being embarrassed in front of yourself, that's an obstacle, right? Like, let's practice being comfortable with ourselves enough to say, maybe I am making this up, but that's okay. There's something that needs to come out. And then as time goes on, you begin to realize it's just automatic. You begin to write things and be like, I don't know where that came from. That's a dialogue. but you have to start that conversation. And the truth is, spirit is always talking to us. We just don't know how to understand it. So, one of the first things we go over is the four types of intuition, the four main types of intuition. And I have a quiz on my website, like a free quiz where people can just go figure out what your primary intuitive sense is. Because if you really pay attention, you already speak a language, but you may not be aware of it. You may not know that you speak this language. So, for me personally, I feel things. Like I am a feeler and I'm predominantly clairempathetic and clairsentient. Like I feel things. I don't necessarily see them. Everything comes through to me as a feeling or a knowing, but usually I have a feeling that gives me that knowing. And if I wasn't allowing myself the time and space to develop my emotional language, I would have a really hard time using my gifts. So, identifying your gift and then working with it to support it. And, in the mentorship, I always tell people all four of your senses will be activated, but I don't expect you to be, equally all four. You don't have to be. You just have to know what your language is and learn to have a conversation and a dialogue through that channel, that language. So a long answer to your question, but hopefully
I
it was
love
packed with
that.
the goodness you were looking for.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. And I really love your approach to things because it feels so natural and easy. And for whatever reason, people make such a big deal about like, are you intuitive or are you not? It's like everyone is. And also that thing of when you start, you might feel like, I'm just making this up. What is wrong with that? I think that was something that I had to get over, and also everyone has to get over. And I don't really understand why we're so afraid of our imagination. Like, what if I imagine this? Like, what that imagination is creativity. Imagination is part of our sacred, way of operating through the world. Like, do you dream at night? Like, what's wrong with your imagination and your creative mind? Those are beautiful gifts. So even if you are writing something and it comes from your imagination, that is still beautiful and helpful and nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I think just embracing that opens the door the quickest or in the most with the most ease to that path of intuition. Do you find that a lot people are like afraid, like what if I made this up, and that into that imagination piece?
It's not often there. Well, yes, that does happen, but I find that people are more afraid of like opening a door they don't know how to close or opening a
Mm,
door to a place they didn't intend.
yeah.
And I have conversations all the time with spirits, but I also have conversations with people who also have conversations with spirits. And we're very much in agreement that, like, I've never met a demon in my life. Like, I've never
Mhm.
met a dark energy. Like, we all come from love, and we can forget and we can become unclear and we can move away from it. But there's no such thing as like darkness, but society, I talk about this a lot actually. I have a lot of problems with the way that media portrays intuitives or spiritual people in general. Like we're always the butt of a joke. We're never taken seriously. We're, always made fun of. And I don't actually know why we're not really like advocating for ourselves more. Like not like I can't take a joke. I can take a joke, but like we've not yet created media or, widespread information that makes people feel excited or comfortable about connecting to their gifts. It's always, I'm afraid I'm going to, like people are scared to use pendulums because they equate them to like Ouija boards. And it's like,
Mm,
well, first of all, yes and no. Like Ouija boards, mostly you're just, pushing that around and getting excited because you're usually doing it when you're like a little kid. But if you're using a Ouija board to connect to spirit, like you can do it. But people have so much fear. There's so much rhetoric of fear around what you'll connect to or what you'll hear. But the other thing, that's like a 3D fear. When I have clients that are in their 5D energy, their fear is, what am I going to lose when I become my fullest self? Like, what do I have to trade?
mm.
Who do I have to trade? And, there were even parts within me as I grew and expanded. I was like, oh, the last thing I ever want to do is be separated from Ethan, my husband. I was like, I honestly feel like we came to this world together just to live one more life, to be in love in bodies and love each other. Like I really feel like that's one of the things I'm here to do is like be with this person. And so sometimes I was like, oh, like what if my consciousness expands past this person? Well, guess what? Everyone's consciousness is capable of expanding. And when you are consciously in partnership, which you guys probably understand very well, you grow together. And that is an intention you have to hold. But there are people who are not yet ready to hold that intention with you. They're not yet ready to do that work. And so, yes, you may lose people. But I have really learned that the universe only trades up, only.
Yeah.
And when you are ready to claim a new vibration, you only receive what is a vibrational match to that vibration that you've decided to take on. It can be a lesson, but it can be a blessing. And
Yeah.
it's the duality that I think people are afraid of, is like they want all the good, but they don't want the hard. And it's like, I hate to break it to you, but life is duality. Like, they always say like God is just, and I believe that spirit is just. I believe that spirit is fair, and we must experience all of life, all of it, every piece of it, in order to really learn. And I believe that spirit wants us to learn. So spirit will give us lessons and blessings in equal amount, in, different forms, for different people, depending on what our unique journey is here in this life. So ultimately, another very long answer to your question, giving ourselves the room and the permission to face the fear and understand that the fear is created from the ego. It's created from the part of us that wants to be separated from truth. So as long as we can become compassionate toward fear, my whole thing is like, your ego's not your enemy. They always say like, your ego's not your amigo. It's also not your enemy. It's the
Yeah.
part of you that I have the most compassion for, because imagine if you always had to be the Debbie Downer. You were created to have one function, which is to be a downer, to create fear, to create pain, to create upset or illusion. Like, wow, that is not a job I would want to have. And so when my ego flares up and tries to tell me something, I try to meet it with care and say, oh, I totally get that that's how you see this. Like, I completely understand that that's the way that you think about this. And I promise I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to take care of you. Like, I take care of my ego because she's scared. So I think the more that we can give compassion toward ourselves, compassion toward our fear, and understand that even if we have to give things up, the universe only trades up. We will always receive what is in alignment, no matter what that looks
Yeah.
like.
I love that phrase. The universe only trades up, because it's so true. And it's going to be scary making any type of change. It might be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It might be not what your ego or your mind mentally, logically thinks is best or wants, but the courage that it takes, and the bravery that it takes, and self-love that it takes to level up in any way is so, like, when you meet yourself there and you do it, it's like you said, it only trades up. But yeah, things do have to crumble away. And I mean, it's kind of what we're going to be seeing with this new paradigm, where it's going to be scary and it's going to be heartbreaking and it's
It's
going to
already
be,
scary.
yeah, it
I'm
already
scared as
is.
fuck, you
We're
guys.
in it.
Yeah, but it is, this opportunity to level up, or to, really succumb to the fear, and get buried underneath all of the things that are crumbling. So
Mm.
it is an opportunity to recommit to yourself, to love, to the divine, to your purpose, and to leveling up always. And it can feel like, do I have to always level up? But it's like you level up when you're ready. Like, all of the work that you do, all of the observations that are made, all of the intuitive things that drop in for you, or the things that you experience, like, you hit a point where it's like, oh, I feel it. Like, it's time. I'm leveling up, and something might fall away here. But what's meant to fall away was the thing that was holding you back. And so one of the things that you said about joy, it made me, in a few things that you've been talking about, there's just certain things in life that you can't manufacture. Like, you can't manufacture, you can't pretend. And one of those is joy. Like, you cannot pretend to have true joy in something. Like, you can fake laugh, but like, that's about it. And you also can't pretend to have growth. Like, if you are outgrowing, someone in your life, because you're expanding your consciousness and you are up leveling, and they're not able to meet you there, you can't force someone to grow. You can't, and they can't pretend like, I've grown and now I'm here. Like, it's something that everyone has to do for themselves, just like you have to find your joy for yourself. No one else is going to tell you this is going to make you happy. This is going to be blissful for you. It's like
Mm,
you have to go do it and see, like, did you laugh till you cried? Like, did you dance like totally unhindered? Like, what is joy in your body really feeling like?
mm,
And there's so many moments in my life that, small moments where I feel like, oh, that was really joyful watching that movie with my partner, or something big that's only happened a few times, like doing ecstatic dance, or connecting in a retreat with a bunch of women, and there's just this feeling of joy radiating that's like, this is my life, like this is it. But I don't have that every single day of my life. So it's
mm.
like finding the small and the big, and like not I guess I feel like there's so many people just trying to fake it,
Ugh,
like trying to fake joy in their life, trying to fake growth. And it's like, that's only going to get you like in the level that you're in. Like it's not going to get you anywhere. You're just running around in circles. And so just you sharing that, I was like, gosh, that is it. Like, you have to go find those things for yourself. And then when it's time and it's like, it's here, are you going to jump off the cliff, or are you going to take that action or really upgrade? Then it's just about trusting yourself, like truly trusting yourself and true self-love to take action on the things that your body or intuition is telling you. Because when you don't take action on those things, that's a lack of self-worth. That's a lack of self-love ultimately. Um, which is just I'm just so passionate about everything that you've shared. I'm like so lit up by all the things that you're sharing.
and we get to keep
Same.
talking after this, which is so exciting. We're gonna
I
do it the other
know.
way, which is like,
And and I did have one more thing that I really wanted to ask you before we end this conversation.
totally.
One of the things in human design is that we're studying the aura. We're studying the mechanics of the aura, the different types of aura, and how they exchange energy. Because ultimately, that is so important. It tells us how you are designed to move into every experience that's going to be on your unique path. And we all move differently, interact differently because we have these different aura types. So in human design, we're all about the aura, but we're much more about the mechanics and the way that they exchange energy based on other parts of your design. But I'm curious to ask you about your work with auras. I know earlier you mentioned that you can see emotions in colors, and
Mhm.
I'm curious, what do you teach about the aura? How can we work with the aura from a more intuitive perspective? What kind of insight do you have there?
So I first just want to say that I could hear you preparing to ask this question. And I was the whole time we've been talking. So in when we first began the conversation, I was seeing you two really like distinctly. But in the course of our time together, you actually have a very strong shared aura, which I think is kind of important. And I don't get enough opportunities to read for two people at once. I do couples aura portraits, which are really, really fun. I create aura portraits using Photoshop, which I'm still getting lessons on, but like I'm doing my absolute best because I want people to like see what their aura looks like. And then I do this like a recorded interpretation of what they're looking at. But I don't get to do like this type of dynamic very often. So as we're sitting here talking, I'm like, oh, there's that color. Cool, cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So one of the first things that I like to teach people about the aura, and I would love if we have an extra second to tell you guys what I'm seeing in the two of you together.
Yes.
I always want people to know that there is no right way to perceive or read an aura. And I think this is so important because even in like the spiritual and healing wellness community, which is a whole other conversation I'd love to have with you guys sometime, because there's so much to say. It's sometimes we have this like belief that intuition is supposed to look a certain way. So like to see auras, you have to visually see them around people, or in order to be clairaudient, you have to actually hear the voice of spirit or whatever. And I do not subscribe to that. I do not believe that intuition has to look a certain way, even through each individual sense. I think it can look completely differently. So I always tell my students when it gets to aura lesson, because we do a special call for auras and then we spend a couple days practicing seeing them in different spaces in different ways. And I always like for my students to know there's no right or wrong way to perceive it. It's just about how you experience another person's energy. And I think removing any sort of like process or technique or rhetoric excuse me, is actually really, 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 really important because I don't want people to feel excluded from the experience of experiencing energy. So when I personally perceive an aura, the first thing that happens is I'm experiencing some sort of emotion and it happens very instantaneously. And I actually do my readings completely blind. So I will hop on Zoom with people, but I do not look at them. And I used to have an in person office and I, at the time, was seeing like 10 clients a day, just like back to back to back to back, which was not good for me. And also, I realized that I, as a human, am extraordinarily observant and sensitive. And so, even the slightest micro expression from a person will throw me off my game because I will immediately go into like, they hate it. I'm wrong. I'm terrible. Blah. Like, I go into like
Mhm.
something about myself, which I'd like to think I've outgrown at this point, but I really enjoy the blind read because I don't want to know anything about your physicality. I don't want to know, what you look like, whatever. I don't want to know because I want to just read your energy. And another thing people ask all the time is like, well, how can you read my energy from like over the computer? And I always explain it like this: when you love someone and they're far away, you still feel the love for them, right? You don't just love them because they're right in front of you. Like that is energy. You can feel energy between yourself and someone no matter where they are. It's just about tapping into it. And I don't necessarily need a pre existing relationship with someone to do that. So when I tune in, I receive this instantaneous download of emotion and color. And because I've worked with thousands of people at this point, and also get to know people. I love getting to know people deeply. It's the way that I grow my ability. I build this like little Rolodex, like a little lexicon of emotion. And when I'm speaking to someone, I can go, oh, I know this one. It's shame. I felt this before. Like, oh, I know this one. It's grief. I felt this before. Like, oh, this is like love. I felt this before. And I just kind of go through really quickly and it's like all color coded in my brain, basically, which is cool. And I like that my brain works like that. It's like, it makes me like, I feel really grateful for my brain. So when I experience you two, when you guys come together, it is beautiful. And there are people who will say, like, oh, you want to experience like one color. Like, I know there's people out there who are like, so and so is a purple aura person, or so and so is a red aura person. And like, sure, there's a predominant color in an aura, but I personally want to see the full rainbow to make sure that you are in energetic health and wellness. So I also, when I'm looking into auras, perceive two layers: the circumstantial, which is like what's happening right now and how that affects your energy, and then the authentic energetic imprint, which is like, who did you come here to be? And who are you when you're not interrupted by the circumstances of life? And kind of looking at those two levels. And then between the two, I would at least like to see every color. So when I tune into the two of you, at the very, very, very center of your aura that you share is this beautiful, beautiful, soft pink. And the soft pink sort of goes out into like a deeper pink and then into a red, which is cool because at the core of your relationship is unconditional love. You guys unconditionally love each other, which like I want to cry because I'm so happy for you that you
Me
found each
too.
other in this life. Like it makes me so happy. And then you also have this like container of commitment. Red is a very committed, determined color. There's a lot of commitment in this relationship, and it's also the color of the human. So, like, business is very red. Like, boss bitches are very red. And whenever I have a red energy, like, if someone has a predominant red in their aura, I'm always like, oh, you mean business. Like, I would not mess with you. And it's amazing that you guys hold that energy, but that's not what holds you together. What holds you together is the love that you have. And because of the love that you have this ability to create. From that red, definitely seeing a lot of blue and purple kind of like melding out. It goes kind of like from a purple into a blue, which is a really healthy kind of like spectrum. It's nice to see that first of all the colors are like feeding in an order that makes sense, which is good. Sometimes it doesn't look like that, which means that things are not in energetic order, but you guys are very much in energetic order, which is cool. So the purple, obviously, you guys share a strong sense of intuition, and it's going to be very important as you proceed in your business and your creations that it always comes from a space of intuitively checking in and going, yes, that is 100% a yes for me. Even when people maybe on your team or as you expand and grow, people are going to be like, it would really be better if you did this. That's never going to be the answer for you, but you already know that. It's always going to be about what is true to you. But the cool thing too is that as we come out from the circle, what exists on the outside, which makes sense because it's for others, a lot of blue. So that's the teacher. That's the spiritual teaching, that's the speaking, that's all like the throat and the communication. And it comes from this center of unconditional love. And on the outside is green, which is also a color of unconditional love, but it's more about like the purpose. Like it's the healer color. It's like the healer, the one who's out there like doing the work, which makes sense that that's on the exterior. And on the interior, we have that soft pink, which is like more private and intimate, which is just for you guys, which is so cute. And then on the very, very, very last ring of the aura that you share is a golden hue. And that's super cool because we don't see gold super often, if I'm being honest, not trying to like, like fan the flames or anything, but you guys are kind of a big deal. And especially when you bring your abilities together, there's something very like synergistic about it, which is like, a term we hear a lot in the corporate realm, but like you guys do it in a different way. And this gold is the sort of like a universal protection. Like it's like the seal of protection around what you're doing and what you're creating because the universe saw you come together and went, yeah, they're doing important things, like pack it in, like tighten that up, like put a lock on it and keep it there. Which means it would be difficult to exit this relationship if and when you ever needed to, except that we have this inner core of unconditional love, which says, whatever is best for you, bestie, is what I want you to do. Whatever is in the highest alignment for you truly is what I want for you. And that is probably the sweetest thing I've ever heard. So lots of colors that make sense to see, lots of colors that are in this beautiful organized order. And I will say, kind of on the very outside of the sphere, and it does feel like it's a little bit more connected to you, Dana, is this very like yellow. So it feels like your sense of confidence is growing right now. Like your sense of self is growing, but it's important that you are kind of deepening your sense as an individual because obviously Shayna is about to walk this like completely new journey and she's about to have a new bestie and it's going to change the structure a little bit of what's happening between you. And so it makes sense that Dana, you're kind of like feeling yourself. And so you may even be inspired to work on something solo, which doesn't detract from this in any way. If anything, it's just they feed each other. But it feels like you may have something that you want to like birth and create, and you probably are already working on it, already thinking about it. But it feels very much yours, and you guys will always take turns doing that. Always, it'll be like one supporting the other, supporting the other, supporting the other. So a lot of information I know. And is there any part of that
Wow.
that's not resonating that I can clarify for you guys, or anything I can offer to clarify what I've just extended to you?
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Every time you talked about the pink in the center, instantly my eyes
Same.
started watering of like the biggest tears of all time. Like, hold it back, Dana, keep it in, stay cool. But I definitely think that for sure, like my partnership with my husband and also my partnership with Shayna are these like I think really 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 special pillars of profound unconditional love in my life, and I make those two relationships and that unconditional love is like my number one priority in this life because I know that when that's there, everything else will work out. Everything else will fall into place. Everything else can heal itself. Everything else can expand if we have that unconditional love. And we've known each other for so long, Shayna and I. We've grown so much. We've evolved so much. We've been together in the highest highs and the lowest lows. And there's been moments along the path that you feel like, are we too different to make this work? Or, you know what I mean? Things like that. But that unconditional love is so strong. And at the end of the day, it's the thing that is the most real between us, that it's just like, it's truly such a gift. And honestly, like just we're blessed to have it, right? Like it's
Mm.
a soul contract for sure, but it's like not something that we tried. It just is
Mm-mm.
there. And so I feel so grateful for that. And I feel really grateful to hear your reflection of it. But it's also really interesting to hear all of the other layers, like the red ring around it. 100. Like we are like dedicated boss bitch, like let's do this. And like
Committed.
no one else in our life, I don't think we know anyone else in our direct life that has that same level of like, we're fucking doing this shit, okay? Like not in any specific way, but it's just like the dedication on a soul level to like making it happen and living our mission. How do you feel, Shayna?
Yeah, no, I resonate with all of that. And the unconditional love, it's like, it's so interesting, because you can love people in your life and, I have many, many people in my life that I love, but there is this energy with Dana that has always been there from like the very first time we like laid on the hallway of our dorm together and like talked about nothing and like made up songs, like of this feeling of just like I love you. Like there's nothing you could do that would make me not love you. And so it's just like an understood, like it's not like something that needs to be tried or anything. So I love hearing that that's at the core. And then that commitment piece with the red, it is, that piece makes me though feel like, oh, when you're like, Dana's going to be focusing on something she's birthing. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm focusing on something I'm birthing. But that red feels like, oh shit, like it is this like, but then, you talking about the gold ring around everything of like, it's locked and sealed. Like, that's what I feel of like, I don't need to try to make sure that we're committed ever. I don't need to try to make sure that, we're protected or DayLuna and, what we've created has always felt so natural and so guided and so protected and that ease that you were saying, before. And so it feels like really good to hear that because obviously there are times where you're like, gosh, if I don't keep pushing or creating or doing, like, is it just going to fall away? Or like, if I don't keep creating podcasts, like, is everyone just going to forget that are we just going to fizzle out? And so it feels really good to just, have that reaffirming message of like it's sealed with this golden ring and that feels really good. And yeah, I'm curious because you had such a big reaction when I told you I was pregnant, if there was anything that came up for you with like my baby or my body or anything like that.
Well, first of all, I am an empath, so I just feel people's joy
Yeah.
like it's my joy. So like I was having a baby that moment when you told me that. I was like, "Oh, we're pregnant." And it just feels so wonderful to share people's joy to that level. But before I even knew, I don't know if you've shared publicly the gender of your baby, so I won't
Yeah,
say.
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay. I almost asked you before we started. I was like, "Are we telling people you're pregnant? Like, are we allowed to talk about it?" So before you even said that it was a girl, that was immediately the first thing that came through to me. But one of the things that I didn't talk about is that I really believe in consent in spiritual work. And unless someone asks me something, I am not going to tell them. And also, usually, unless they ask me, I'm not even going to feel into it. But there are some things that are super automatic. So as soon as you were like, by the way, I'm 4 months pregnant, I was like, oh, it's a girl. Like in my head, I was like, oh, she's a baby. And so some things are just automatic, and usually actually pregnancy is one of those things. Like I can just see someone and be like, oh, she's pregnant right now. And like before all my friends, every single time one of my friends has told me that they're pregnant,
Wow.
they call me usually is like, because my friends are far away, some of them, and I'm like, I already know you're going to tell me you're pregnant, and I am so excited. Like, but I usually try to let them tell me first. So sometimes I'll like write it down and be like, on this date I knew such and such was pregnant. And like this is actually a funny story I'll tell really quickly. I have an ex best friend who like we just grew out of whatever, it doesn't matter. And her birthday is June 6th. And this past spring, I was like, she's pregnant and she's going to announce the baby on her birthday. And sure enough, June 6th rolled around and she was like,
Wow.
so excited to be celebrating our baby moon. Like, baby's coming this year. And I was like, fucking knew it. We don't even have to be friends. And I know when you're pregnant.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so it's sometimes just
Wow.
like one of those funny things. But um, that is something that I do, like speaking lovingly and candidly, just between new
Yeah.
besties. I feel in your energy how much it's occupying you in like a really positive way.
Yeah.
But you are moving through a very powerful transformation that is occurring, like I think with your consciousness, but at times like maybe without your consent, like it's happening kind of fast, and I feel the movement that's happening in you. And so the last thing I wanted to do was like shake you up and be like, here's everything I'm seeing, because like you're already feeling it. I don't have to like tell you, and it feels like a lot, but I know that it's good, and I know that you're
Yeah.
excited and you have so much love and support around you. Like there's nothing but positive beauty that is coming from this, a healthy, happy baby girl into a beautiful life. And it feels like one of the things that's happening is that you are sort of like uh, almost in this like subconscious way putting everything in its place in terms of like your experience as a daughter as well, and like ancestry, and like tapping into something that's very like you're tapping into something that frankly doesn't have to do with what's happening right here. You're tapping into things that are like where you come from, and like things that like ancestral lineage, and the things that we pass down from woman to woman. Like you're integrating and processing a lot, and it feels like you're nesting your energy. Like it feels like you're like organizing and filing the inside, putting things where they belong, so that you're like really really ready for this. So you just have a lot going on, but it's all really
Yeah.
good stuff, and it feels really necessary and really positive. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes. Oh my gosh, 1,000%. I have full chills as you're sharing that because that's exactly what I've been experiencing. And it just feels really just good because it is that feeling of like, am I doing enough? Right.
Mm.
But knowing like I have so much going on, like internally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, like physically, like literally so many things. But then yeah, I just love it. Thank you so much for that reading. It was such a
Yeah.
gift. And I'm like, we always say that, we have our husbands and then like we have our wives. Like, I'm like, oh, I have to go. Let me ask my wife about that first. And that's Dana. And so it just feels really, really good. And I'm so grateful for you in our lives now too. It honestly
Me
feels like
too.
it's about damn time. Like, how have we not
I
connected till
know.
right now?
I'm really grateful to find you guys, and I just want to say thank you so much for creating this opportunity to be here and to share with your audience and to share with you and just connect. I've been on probably like a billion podcasts at this point, and I've interviewed like a billion people, and I have to say with like my deepest truth that I feel like I belong here, and
Same.
that is something that I want to believe is true. And I also know that you create inclusivity, which we know is important, and you create belonging. And that is one of the things that you are here to do together, and to experience that, to taste it, and to be the focal point of it. I feel like I feel like someone just threw me a party. It's like that's how it feels. It's like someone just threw me a party, and I'm excited to throw one for you guys now. So like I can't wait for that
Ah.
conversation. But I just
I'm
want to thank you so
crying.
much
Me
for throwing me
too.
this party.
I'm crying this whole time. I feel
Yeah.
so emotional and just so much love, like heartburst. The feeling is so mutual. And
Yeah.
it, on days like this where we get to meet with someone who's such a soul sister and such a, like that vibing frequency, I feel like straight up the luckiest human on planet Earth, that this is
Truly.
my calling, that this is where I am. And our community that is here too in this. Like they
Yeah.
are my people too. And the fact that we got to share your genius, your wisdom, your loving energy, you're such a vibrant light. I'm so grateful for you being here. Thank you so much. And for all of our listeners who I know are like, how do I follow her? How do I work with her? Where do I find her? We'd love for you to just tell us, where can people work with you? Where can they find all of your offerings?
So the best place to go would be merhipsy.com, merhipsy.com. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok at _merhipsy. And just remember, I will never DM you for a reading. I'm verified on Instagram, but I'm not verified on TikTok. So like just be smart out there, little babies. I love you and I want to protect you, but I can't from the mean old scammers. But take care of yourselves out there.
So true.
And then of course, you can always reach out. Like I just shoot me a DM. Just say like, oh hey, I heard you on DayLuna and I love you and I want to connect. And that's all I want. I just want to connect with you. So any way that you reach out, I will receive you with love.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to just be in your container now and to be held by you in this conversation even has just been such a gift for my life. So thank you so much. And for everyone listening, we love you. You know where you can find all of the things. You can find all of Zoe's links. I wanted to say Merhipsy's links. Both in the show notes below. And you can also head to daylunalife.com. And we just love you all so much. I hope that you can lean into the divine, lean into your intuition, connect with some sacred tools this week just to celebrate this sparkly energy, honestly, that is coming off of this conversation. Hopefully it has expanded you just a little bit more today. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to follow along and learn more about human design.